Continuing on from our previous exercise, what we want to do in this video is essentially get the basic extrude for our viewing port in place, so that we can then use the final exercise in this chapter to really refine its look by means of a crease sets modifier. After selecting our helmet and coming down to the editable poly level in the stack, let's jump into border subobject mode and click to select the border of our cutout, making certain to press F4 so as to more easily see the flow of the shape that we will be creating. We then want to control click in the command panel in order to convert this to an edge selection. And then from the edges panel in the ribbon, shift click on the extrude button. Now we're going to right click on the height and width spinners in order to zero them out, and then set the width control to a low value of about 0.84, and then click OK. Activating our scale tool using the R key, we can use the very center of the gizmo in order to scale things down ever so slightly along the local axis coordinates. If you are perhaps wondering why we extruded before scaling, this just helps us retain a more even amount of spacing between polygons. You see, if we were to scale straight away, you can see that as we travel further into the operation, we start to get a discrepancy between the size of polygons around the sides of the shape and those coming from the top and bottom. Hence why we perform that extrude first. Now that we have this, we can engage our move tool by means of the W key, make sure that we are working in the local coordinate system, and then whilst holding down the shift key, drag to extrude upward just a little, and then shift drag again in order to extrude the main viewport body. We are going to want the finished position of the vertices in this extrude to be flat, and so let's press R to engage the scale tool, and then scale along the local x-axis in order to give us the flattened look that we want. Coming back to the move tool by means of the W key, let's hold down the shift key and again extrude outward just a little so as to create a set of polygons that we can use as an indentation. And then let's extrude one last time so as to create the cap area that we also need. Coming to the edges panel on the ribbon, let's shift click to bring up the extrude caddy and right click on the width spinner so as to set it back to 0. We can then extrude inwards so as to get a nice even spacing around the edges. Something around about minus 1.5 centimeters should do OK, after which we can click OK. We can then shift click and drag downwards in order to give ourselves a bit of a lip, and then use a shift click one more time to extrude the viewport sides all the way down. If we then re-engage our open subdiv modifier and press F4 to disable edged faces, you can see that this gives us a really nice crease around the edges and follows the contour of our helmet shape. Let's come back to the editable poly level, and in polygon subobject mode, shift click to select the thin loop of polygons that we created earlier. We can then come to the polygons panel and shift click on the bevel tool. From the mode drop down, let's set the bevel type to local normal and zero out both spinners. Then we can set the extrude height at about minus 0.25 centimeters and press OK. Coming to the base of the viewing port now, let's press the 2 key to jump into edge mode, select one of the edges we have sitting here, and then press Alt R so as to select the ring. In the loops panel, we can shift click on the connect tool and push the single loop that we are creating here closer to the base of the viewing port via the slide command. Around about the 52 or 53 mark should do, and then we can click OK. From the edges panel, let's shift click on the chamfer tool, and then after zeroing out that option, chamfer this loop ever so slightly, around about 0.15 centimeters should do nicely. Finally, let's come into polygon subobject mode, use a shift click to select the loop, and then extrude this downward by a slight amount, about minus 0.24 centimeters. Once we exit out of subobject mode now, and check with our open subdiv modifier, we can see that everything is looking pretty good.